Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say welcome to a fresh, brand new edition of the program ASHFORD GARLEY Live on British Radio Africa. And as always, folks, in the book of 1 Thessalonians 5:18, in everything give thanks, for this is the word of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. Giving thanks always for all things unto God, as the Father, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Ephesians 5:20. Father, I want to magnify your name. Blessed be your holy name forever. I want to thank you, Lord, for what you've done and continue to do. We are grateful to you. In the name of Jesus, we've given thanks. Folks, the wise man once said, stay away from toxic, negative, and energy draining folks. They don't mean well for you. He went further to say, some people come in your life for a reason and others come for a season. Man up, make a decision when the season is over. With that said, folks, the mastermind, the doctor of law, the medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of radio. C'est tout pas yet. C'est bon pour dans dia ko me o kire ji. We dia ku e gwe play. C'est kon we ai pere. Ba se yon pro. Groba we kon your secret. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. Africa's media do extraordinaire. As for the giant, and now you know me, Garley. Welcome. And it's time to say hi to Shechadik Kanga, Hawabe, Wadi Constance, Chaz, Chuck, One Dennett, out of Nairobi, Kenya, Abariago, Amani, Atowiado. Well, let me welcome my co-host, Mrs. Lexi Brooks Roberts. What's up for this weekend? Mrs. Roberts?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Garley. How are you?
I'm better than good, as
Good evening,
always.
my fellow panelists.
Les Brown.
Good.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we want to say welcome to each and every one of you edition of Bridge Radio Africa with your host, Ashford, the Giant Garley, and our panelists, Pastor Idatus Ade, Dr. James T. Frisk, and our special guest, the evening. Please make yourselves comfortable as we bring you another exciting edition of Bridge Radio Africa. Again, make yourselves comfortable, grab your drink of choice or your meal of choice. While it's evening time, it's dinner time, some people may just be snacking at home. We ask that you please be respectful of each other. We also ask that you be respectful of our panelists. What you write is just as important as what you say. Most importantly, we ask you to be respectful of our host. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful evening. Make yourselves comfortable. Back to you, Mr. Garley.
Pastor Idatus at it.
Yes, greetings to all of you wonderful, dedicated supporters of Bridge Radio. Greetings to wonderful panelists. Happy Friday. I wish you all have a wonderful weekend. It's a pleasure to be here again once more. Thank you.
Dr. James D. Fisk.
Well, my greetings to everyone in viewer land. My greetings to you, Ashford, and other panelists. And I just want to thank you all for taking time off your busy schedule to yet participate in another explosive edition of Bridge Radio with Ashford Garley. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest tonight. The name that needs no introduction, George Solo, former chairman of the Wooden CDC. Uh, Idatus, you've listened to George Solo before, so as Mrs. Roberts and of course Dr. Fisk. George Solo is in the news. I'm told he's contesting, become a senator in Grand Juda County, and he will also be talking to us tonight about some trending issues in Liberia. Idatus, what do we hope to hear from Mr. Soto tonight?
Well, I'm quite frankly excited to hear what he has to say now that he's in Liberia and sort of provide us with the update on the current state of affairs in the country, our government, elections, among several other things. The vice presidential candidates, being selected by different political parties. So I would certainly like to know his thoughts on the elections, the discrepancies we're currently hearing happening in Lofa and parts of Nimba due to the BVR breaking down, thus denying people the right to vote, register to vote. So all of these trending issues in Liberia, the floating of the tapes concerning Thomas Gao. I would like to hear his perspective on that, the press conference that was made by Jefferson Koji and his lawyer, Arthur Johnson. I certainly like to hear his perspective on that and where he sees the country, under the leadership of perhaps Ambassador Joseph Boyka, Cummings, or a continuity of George Weah. Thank you. President George Weah.
Mrs. Roberts, George Solo is the guy who doesn't mince his words. What do you hope to hear from him tonight?
Well, yes, I would definitely like to hear from him an update on what is really going on the ground as he is there. And as you said, he doesn't mince his words, so we know we're going to get an honest update. And of course, to let us know his experience as he, trails around Monrovia and other parts of the country.
Well, Dr. Fisk, I'm pretty sure he's gonna speak to your church tonight. He once served as vice president for human resource at a manufacturing company here in these United States, and he's somebody that is passionate of creating jobs. What do you hope to hear from him tonight?
Well, the first thing, perhaps maybe it would be nice for him to tell the public where he's leaning politically, because if he's running for senator, we need to understand whether he's going under the umbrella of the CDC or not, because you refer to him as the former chairman. So that is important to know. It is also important to know if he's not with the CDC, reasons why he's not with the CDC, and do these reasons bear out in terms of the political realities that are existential in Liberia right now? Because we know, for instance, that his former candidate is right now in London trying to, well, is as part of the coronation of the King of England. Meanwhile, there are activities that continue to be unsolved activities in Liberia. So, can he help us to make sense out of all of these political things that have been happening within the country?
Idaju's, Mr. Sula has been quiet for quite some time now. What is going on? Is he quietly running his campaign, or are we smelling some type of compromise?
Not at all. I would rather him share that secret with the Liberian people as to why he's been quiet. But I wouldn't, have any misguided suspicion about his quietness. He's an individual that has been very vocal against this government and its improprieties, financial, as well as its poor governance. So I would not in any way perceive him to be quiet because of any compromise. I'm looking forward to hearing from him. And hopefully he will give us an update. Hence, we're waiting.
Lexi Brooks Rapids. Please unmute your phone, your device.
The public is waiting for him, so we are. I know you're trying to keep us in suspense, but we are looking forward to hearing, all of the honest truth. This brother brings the truth in just as it is. So I'm looking forward to him coming on.
Well, Dr. Fisk?
I mean, the thing is, this whole thing about afterthought, after the fact, is disconcerting, because people have to understand and take responsibility for their actions. They need to understand that sometimes they make decisions, they have implications pertaining to the lives of people. A number of people that have died needlessly in Liberia, they got to go all the way to Ghana for treatment. It doesn't make any sense. And all of these things, the country is needlessly dirty. It doesn't make any sense. The country is needlessly jobless. It doesn't make any sense. The country continues to import rice from China and India. It doesn't make any sense. So there's a lot of things that do not make any sense now. And the reasons those things continue not to make any sense, because a number of people were suspicious that other than being a soccer player, George Weah, didn't have much to offer. But I want to say this. Mr. Solo, I hope he's cognizant of the fact that we are not necessarily opposed to George Weah. We are just pro-Liberians. In other words, we want people that will come and do the right thing for the country. So when you come to criticize after the fact, then you need to understand that we intend to hold you responsible and accountable for some of those things that have transpired under this present leadership.
Well, folks, if you're just joining us, this is ASHFORD GARLEY Live on British Radio Africa. This program comes away Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. This is the last edition for the week. We'll take a word from our sponsor, and then when we come back, we'll talk some more as we await Mr. George Solo.
Di Lorenzo, G Grace, Hems vocal, Liberia number one vocal, Liberia number one, right? Okay.
The phrase, a new sheriff is in town, does not only belong to law enforcement. How about the introduction of Liberia's premier vodka, a quality and customized liquor for all occasions? Try the flavor of your choice. Hems Vodka, Hems Honey, Hems Bitter, and Hems Original Vodka. Hems Vodka has no hangover. That's why they say Papa drank Mama happy. Hems Vodka is sold in all stores, shops, supermarkets, and entertainment centers in Liberia. For wholesale, contact Hems Vodka at 0777 001114, 0777 000-979. We can also be reached via social media on Facebook and IG at Hems Vodka or www.hensvodka.com. In the United States, please contact Hands North America Incorporated at 610-543-9289, 484-888-1622, 484-755-8411. Hands Vodka is approved by the U.S. federal government. Hands Vodka brings out the real man in you.
I tell you, in my boy, in my blood. Every time when I stay on the block, everybody knows.
Okay, folks, we're back. But listen, we're going to do something a little different tonight. That's why we're at the trendsetter. When we started the whole Cash App thing, people went and jump on it. Now you see everybody wants to do Cash App. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to allow you to speak with our special guest for 2 minutes on the top of the hour. And what's going to happen before then is called this super call. So the super call starts at 9 p.m. For $9.99, you will speak to our guest for 2 minutes. The Cash App is on there. The Zelle is on there as well. Sometimes we'll have these high-profile guests. Everybody wants to, excuse me, everybody wants to get a piece of him or her. So tonight we're going to do it a lot more differently. Sometimes it can be hard to get in. So you'll first visit the Cash App or Zelle, and then in the message column, you will leave your telephone number. When we see the $9.99, then we'll call you and have you speak to our special guest for 2 minutes. Something we're introducing here tonight, and that's what we do. We set the trend, and others follow. Mr. Jesse Fangon is here. Decon D. Jed is also here. Austin Carpet is in the building from East Orange, New Jersey. Gordon We Adore is also on here. Martha Doki. No vacancy out the door. Howard Baird and the rest of the crew. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we wait for our special guest, what is in the news? Let us talk about this leak audio that is around between the Monrovia City Corporation director's boss and, of course, Jerome Verdier's name was mentioned. Sheik, what's his name? Sheik name was mentioned. Fangon, and of course our friend and brother Stanton Waterspoon. They're all involved in this audio. We heard about the guns that came to Liberia through the Freeport of Monrovia. I mean, all kinds of scary things we've heard on these audio recordings. Idatu's added, what do you know so far? Your mic is muted.
So when I listened to the press conference, and they played recording, I was truly expecting that the smear campaign would have been confirmed. But I didn't see any real evidence to show that Mr. Verdier or the rest of the individuals were attempting to damage the reputation of Mr. Coakley. What I heard was a lawyer coaching, a potential client as to how to address issues of political asylum. I was taken aback by the press conference that was sort of done the other day, and those tips just does not suffice in the favor of the government, its image. What I also observed was that Liberia has been weaponized by this government through a ragtag army of a potential rigging of these elections. And make no mistake, with the voting machines breaking down and in different counties of potential enemies to George Weah, political enemies by the elections, it's clear that the arms in the countries were not meant for the legitimate army of Liberia, but for the weaponization of military men, ragtag army at the MCC, the immigration, and other parts of the government that they are preparing for, led by Jefferson Cody.
Well, Director Thomas Gao, I don't know if he did himself some justice yet, because I have a very damaging recording that we're about to play now. Clearly listening to him. So the Liberian man said, "You do me, I do you." Why he thought he was recording the other people were on the other hand recording him too. And he said some damaging things. And I'm pretty sure if Jefferson Kochi or the president of Liberia and not living at the police director, if they hear this recording, it might not look good for him. So let me bring in Dr. Fisk, Mrs. Roberts, then we'll listen to the recording. Dr. Fisk, you do me, I do you. People are recording each other. I don't know what's going on. They are claiming Stanton Waterspoon and his gang will do everything to bring this government down. And on the other hand, they are saying, I don't know what's going on. That's the big mess we're in.
Well, the thing is, we have to understand that when you are the biggest modus operandi of the CDC is that they always blame game. Okay, for some reason, after being in power for almost 6 years now, they've still not understood that they are no more an opposition party. Okay, so when you talk about development, they start talking about Elling or maybe go way back to 1847. And what they don't seem to understand is what I told the CDC person that came the last time we spoke, is that George Weah is popular, we agree. And at the time he was running to be president, he never had a record. Okay. But he's been there for 6 years and has done something less than Elling. And one of the reasons why people voted him into office is because people were despondent with Elling. People felt that Elling would have made jobs available, okay, so that people live with dignity. But that did not happen. The best Elling did was to make sure that the debt was alleviated from Liberia. But what country doesn't owe debt? Every nation has debt. So that was supposed to. So if you take away the debt, but yet and still you don't create you create conditions for the nation to be able to increase wealth, what you've done is amounts to nothing. Okay. So now they came in power and they say, oh, the big excuse now is that, oh, we can't wave a magic wand. But you were able to wave the magic wand and build what, 40 condominiums in Liberia and the rest of it. So these guys, all they do is just excuse. And as we draw closer to election, what they will try to do is to step it up, take it up one step further. So instead of just plain gaming, try to develop strategy to hold on to power. Okay? And they need to understand you may easily do it in other countries, but they also need to understand the contemporary history of Liberia. And this country is a country just from war. A lot of people out there who are not afraid to hold arms or get back in the bush and all that kind of stuff. And they shouldn't think for 1 minute that they have all of those people within their constituency. You have other people who have similar nasty mind that are hanging out there and they are despondent. And so as we approach these things, we just have to understand and make sure that these guys do the right thing. Otherwise, I mean, it's like a power cake that Liberia is sitting on right now.
Well, Mrs. Letty Brooks Roberts, I am seriously afraid for the city police director. You will hear him on the tape. And folks, please share the video. Invite a few friends. Don't be selfish, because this recording is damning. You clearly hear this guy saying, Koji has power. He has money. What more does he want? You know, and he went further to say that the city police has more guns than even the Liberia National Police. When it is in the Constitution that the city police is not even supposed to carry guns. What this boy needs guns for? And he went further to say the president, Musa Din, they are all afraid of this boy. And he said for the president to be a man and lead his country, he chasing small girls. That's what this boy is saying on this recording, Mrs. Roberts.
Yeah. These are just reassurance or collaboration of what everyone has suspected of these people. Why are they recording each other? Because they know they're doing something that's not right. me and you periodically talk. I don't record you. I hope you're not recording me because there's nothing to, you know, for you to do that, you are suspecting something, or you don't trust the person you are dealing with. So they're doing this because they're caught up into something. So now everyone wants to have a backup plan. If something were to happen, this is what he said or did or told me to do. So covering it, they're trying to cover them bugs, and they have been exposed because you thinking you got me and I think I got you. So it's a gotcha moment. And it's sad to hear what is being exposed, especially when it comes to our girls. I heard one of the to be someone running for office say, "Oh, at least now our girls are not being raped. Our girls are not prostituting." Well, and before I got this tape, Mr. Galias, God is my witness. I said, of course not, because you guys are giving them a little bit of something just to have them anyway, anytime. That's what came to my mind. And to hear that the city police is doing such, and if he's doing that, I'm sure, others are doing it. It's just a sad commentary, a sad day, and then again, it's another national security issue. Okay, why do you have all these arms? And the people that should, you're supposed to be working for don't even know you have them. And that, someone even pointed out people die mysteriously. They have all these strategies of killing people. You know, Attorney Verdia spoke on how Matthew Innes was killed. He worked at a bank. Why was he out at night coming from work? I mean, not that people don't, hang out after work, but from his characteristic, people, said he didn't leave and stay out that late. So they kill you, and even if you found me dead, why is my next of kin not called? Why are you taking me to the morgue? All these sinister behaviors. So yeah, I would love for us to talk about that more because we have an issue in our
And
country.
again, Idatus and Dr. Fisk, you have a journalism background. Not for me to talk about the ethics of journalism. I mean, we took oath as journalists to first off make that disclosure that just know that this conversation is being recorded. That's how it should be done in a professional way. Despite our limited resources, we try our best to be as fair, as balanced, and as accurate. But others, I mean, because they have a little bit of cash, they try to abuse the media landscape, and I don't think this is what the media is meant for. Some people are just mere propagandists, and they take to the media and just do all kinds of wrong things. In something like recording somebody unknown to them. I mean, this hurts. It's just not fair for the media. Idatus then Fisk.
I mean, well, Ashford, that's the nature of what Liberia has become. When you talk to people,
Mm.
people are recording you, and whether it's against your will or not, they're just doing it. So, people need to be careful in America, especially some states. It's not allowed that for you to like record somebody without the knowledge. So, they just have to be careful. But as you can see, everybody went to that meeting to record each other because they were suspicious of each other or one another, for that matter. So I guess this is what Liberia has become. People are in the constant habit of recording people.
And this is not just the first time that the fakes people are in the constant habit of doing these kind of sinister things.
Well, the thing is, there are several things we have to take into consideration, and let me just segue for a second to explain something, and then apply it to what we're trying to discuss. Doctors, physicians, let me use the word physicians, take something called Hippocratic oath. Okay, in other words, they have to make sure that they protect life. Okay, and do no harm, and the rest of it. Ordinary individuals cannot therefore be held to the same standards as doctors, physicians, right? Because they never took an oath. So they don't have any responsibility to do the right thing, so to speak. However, in modern societies, let's take the United States for instance, you have something called the Good Samaritan law. So if you saw somebody and the person was facing imminent death and danger, and you had the capacity to save them, the Good Samaritan law says that you can go ahead and help them. And even in the process, if they died, you cannot be held responsible. So, in other words, even though physicians have that responsibility, but it also extends to ordinary citizens in another fashion. So then let's try to apply that to what we see with respect to people recording each other. Um, as people who've gone through media training, they know that you have to do full disclosure. In other words, um, I have to get your consent before I record you, right? And if I don't get your consent, I have to make it clear to you that this conversation is off record. Okay. However, when it comes to the ordinary persons out there in the street, these individuals don't regard themselves as media personalities, so to speak. So they don't kind of hold themselves to that standard. Okay. And unfortunately, um, there are no ethically compelling reasons for them to do so. And then added upon that is the fact that these guys are in the kind of environment they are in, an environment in which there is almost a breakdown of law and order in the country. Okay. Even Mr. Weah said it. Everybody should be a security unto themselves and get CCTV and the rest of it. And that is exactly what people are doing. So unless you can have some standard in the country, some a change, not necessarily of leadership, but a change in governance. This is what you will expect, and that is just one of the best case scenario. Because worst case scenario, people have been killed in the country and there are no investigations. The whole thing become a political narrative and then it goes away and the rest of it. You see, so I'm not surprised over what is happening in the country. And these things need to tell the Liberian people that nobody from US Embassy or nobody from the United States is going to fix Liberia. Liberians at some point need to understand that they need to be responsible citizens. In other words, they need to know that they are using their vote to change the country for the better. Nobody else is going to change Liberia but Liberians.
And let it broke out not just only the journalists or politician. Some of our brothers and sisters are involved in these things. You go behind the scene, you marry, you leave your home, you go to a girlfriend, you nigga, you said they get, you fall asleep after Papa dream, mama happy. The next thing you know, everything is out there. Then they get takes the recording and send it to the journalist and say, if you don't give me something and so thing, I will expose you. First, according to them, they send it in your inbox. Say, this is how you load last night. If you know what I know, if you don't do something, you'll go out there. I mean, they need to pass a law, send people to go jail, to stop the nonsense. Mrs. Roberts.
Well, in New Jersey, it says Wiretapping Act requires that the consent of at least one party to a conversation before recording in an in-person conversation in which a person has a responsible expectation that such communication is not subject to recording. So as Dr. Fitz said, it is required that you tell the person I'm recording you. You don't just record people without their consent. And if you are going to do a recording, it's not admissible without a legal ramification. So, these people are playing with fire. When you're going to do stuff, at least you should know the ramifications. So I even, think having that tape played yesterday in the public, it begs for some kind of constitutional review, because you can't just put people's private conversation out there. So again, our country, I don't know if the people, this pay for play, let's put it that way. It's another legal issue. Pay for play, quid pro quo, something for something. Why are they doing this? Because they want something. So if it should fall in the cracks, then I say, this is what I did for you, or vice versa. And this is why they're doing this. These are all con artists, because regular people don't do that.
Okay, well,
That's my perspective.
and this is just one of several recordings that are out there, and I'm telling you, some of these things are not good for the ears of the little ones. I want to caution you, if you're a little child standing in the room, because some of the utterances from these folks are very graphic. Take a listen.
Send information to me. Please send out the document, please. Yeah, send it to my email. Wow. Very nice house. Wow. Ayala. Wow, that's nice. So let me send my email. You send all of the document there, please. To my email. No, my email. I send the email to you, please. Send an email and WhatsApp. WhatsApp? Oh, okay. Gmail.com. Okay. Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you. Yalla. I'm waiting for the information, please. Okay.
You all now?
Yeah.
Who is sending my prayer? I know what you want to send on WhatsApp.
Yeah. I'm saying that's really good.
You want to send it today?
Yeah. You see all the details. They put it, when they put, I see the put, guess what I'm complaining about. Like, came from Israel, package to Africa. Now, what is it? Once Africa, the equipment is sent for city police, brother. You are saying you ask them, what's the size of city police? They say they tell equipment. Even national police, not get equipment. Like, for you not continue to take a few army, we had a sensitive found weapon.
Wow.
So I ask the question, when they bought that money, they get power. Where better you want to be? And I was fully, I guess, in there, fucking small children here from the beginning.
Well, I'm beginning doing it very well.
Moving here from the beginning. Now, what I know, look at Justin Bieber. They get deal with the particular. Because they say, okay, it's only wrong with you. You make a mistake. Put it down, go to the big area. You do it there.
I'm doing it very well.
Well, this is just one of several recordings that are out there. The guy you're referring to, where he used some vocal language, was the president when he began small girls. Working a ball who has a lot of power, referring to Koji. You got money, you got power. Why else do you want? The equipment that they have is more than, the Liberian National Police doesn't even have that kind of equipment. The ball talks to the justice minister anyhow. Same with the police director. And that's the voice of the city police director, Thomas Gao. Ladies, gentlemen, that's it.
Well, Ashford, to be quite frank with you, I don't see anything startling that is revelatory, because we know who the president is. He's, it is an open secret. He's referred to as General Eat All, leave no Jew behind. So, this is not a startling revelation at all. So, our presidency has become a mockery, little with drug infestation, money laundering, and gun running. So those revelations aren't new at all. This is something Liberians know. Now, how does that impact the day-to-day future of Liberia remains that decision of the Liberian people. Do you want a presidency where the president is constantly, shrouded in these kinds of mishaps about his image, his reputation, his governance, his corruption, and all these different things. These things don't represent Liberia. Listen, currently we have boys in power, and we need men to take over Liberia to change our direction. Liberians have a very serious choice to make. That is the director of the capital city police sharing with the public inadvertently concerning the government he's currently serving. I mean, that he's served in, or is still serving, or not serving in. So this isn't new. Liberians have to take their future very serious and change this government by all means.
Dr. Fix, what is the motive for all this equipment?
The thing is, these guys, like I said from the onset of this program today, these guys are yet to understand that they are running the country rather than being in an opposition in the country. They want to have it both ways. They want to eat their cake and have it. Want to be running the country, but want to, on the other side, speak as if and behave as if they are opposition, and they are in some kind of trench warfare with another opposition. No, they are not. Um, the people had high expectation of George Weah, knowing that, I mean, he came from obscurity. The expectation was that he would have identified with them. Okay, this is one of the reasons why when people talk about, experience and this and that, I mean, I pay no attention to it, because I know that depending on the context in which people function, that's how they behave. When Mr. Weah was in Europe, he was regarded as one of the most disciplined persons. But once he's not working for Caucasians, that he may be a president, but when you behave in that manner, it tells me that you have an inherent inferiority complex. That you only think that you have to obey white people, but when it comes to your own black people, then it becomes a problem. Okay, and a number of our leaders,
Yeah.
unfortunately, not only a George Weah thing, a number of our leaders, other people came, took the presidency, and were there flying all over the place to get accolades, and then going and making speeches about how everything was fine in Liberia, and it wasn't. Okay, the other day people came here and started to talk about how the employment percentage of Liberia is 69%. I mean, who talks like that? Okay, so if you are not employing the people, you're building houses for people to live in. You go to Nuku Town or Point Four, whatever, you build soccer pitch in an impoverished community. You're not even building factories to give the people a job. You go and build soccer pitch. Okay, as if you're trying to mark the entire nation. You make your wife to open some kind of refuge place. No, Liberia doesn't need refuge. That mentality should be gone in the 21st century. Okay, now if they are not living up to those expectations, and there's a real threat, is existential threat, that they could possibly lose this election, what is the alternative? Is to keep it by force, right? And then what is unfortunate about that is people always tend to think that they have monopoly over coercion. No, nobody has monopoly over coercion. Mr. Koji, don't go and be packing arms as it is alleged, because you need to understand the country is just from war. And what the war should have shown Liberian people is that people have the propensity to be evil towards each other. Okay? Now, this is why at some point I said, if America encouraged most of Africa, there was a time in the African history, if you look at it, America said one of the preconditions to get U.S. assistance is that you had to democratize. Okay, so if you put pressure on somebody to do something, then of course you have a stake
in making sure that that thing works fine. Okay, Liberia has a democracy that's not working. Okay, it's an elected dictatorship that's going on, the dictatorship of the money elite. So all of these guys that control the wealth of the country, what they've done is that they've put the common man aside. Okay, so there's an election that's coming, and the people really don't have any alternative, because some of them will still get elected, because why? The choices are not many, which is bad. But if you ask me why people are keeping arms, long story short, because we can we can we can make a wild guess that people will come and say, oh well, the process was fraudulent, and if we can't keep power by one means, we try to keep it by the other means, and that's not going to work at all.
And both sides are wrong for this. You know, the Stanton Witherspoon side, the Eugene Fagon, consider Vodio, who is an astute lawyer. You know, I mean, trying to coach this young man with Vodio. I'm told he was just giving him guidance as to how to apply for some type of regularization in terms of status adjustment. What do you hear, Mrs. Roberts, regarding Councilor Verdier, Stanton, Fagon? You know,
Well, again, from few of the tapes that I listen to on other shows, I don't have access to the tape. Personally, I thought that he was giving, like you said, an advice, the attorney that is, and I'm sure he didn't know he was being recorded. And the part that I find suspicious is the one with the former CEO slash former honorable, what was he, commissioner? What was Eugene Fagon's
Deputy
title?
Police,
Communications, tourism,
no, Deputy
whatever.
Talkative for Association. No, I mean, Deputy Minister for
Exactly.
Information.
Just talk and talk and talk and talk. And now that you have incriminated yourself, you want to come back, we're talking because uh, we're talking because they have come with a press conference. So if you had good intentions, why were you recording? Hello? It's a
We can hear
rhetorical
you.
question. Why were they recording if they had a good intention, if they had good intentions for this conversation? So, the gentleman himself, I feel, what they call it, he was playing both sides. He was taking information to the mayor and then bringing information. I think he had to prove something because sounds like he had already been implicated, or they were suspicious of him. So now he's trying to prove himself that, I'm going to bring stuff here. No, I'm not recording. I'm going to get some scoop on these people to tell you they are the dangerous people, whatever they told you. Because I even heard, what the guy, Kev Hassan, from their show, that when they went to Monrovia, it was this very Stanton. Of course, he didn't call his name, but because I know, when they came back, we all asked, what did they discuss with the president or whomever they discussed? It was a SEAL conversation or SEAL trip. So why is it that you are meeting up with government officials? What are you doing? What was Stanton doing or trying to do? So for me, I'm suspicious. I just want to hear more, and I want him to talk more. And I'm even when Sheck came out the last time we interviewed him here, I feel there's more to this case than meets the eye, but they're trying to keep us a bit by doing it little at a time, drop, so that we don't get the full scoop right away. But I think we're smarter than that.
You know, Stanton is my son. The closing argument is my grandson. Eugene Fangon's my nephew. When I first brought about the idea of a radio station, I don't know anything about radio, and all of a sudden now the man, he has gravitated towards the radio business, and we just gonna. It's a trouble we're in to get you guys to the airwaves. As a matter of fact, I just spoke with Councilor Verdier, and he said he's waiting to hear all the recordings, then he would take a position and come on, just so you know who asking to get a Councilor Verdier on. So I just spoke with him, and he said he waiting to hear all the recordings, and you will have a position. That's it.
Well, I think if it's definitely part of facilitating, this gentleman's asylum, by now would have hoped he heard all of the recordings to come on the line and be able to engage, the public concerning his involvement in the process. Certainly, he is a very valued contributor to our program. So I think it's only, important that he quickly listens to all of these recordings and be able to provide his thoughts on them, or else, or else the public space, the rumor mill would just begin to twist this story in several different ways that may impact his reputation as a lawyer. So I'm very much looking forward to his timely response. But what is more important is the fact that whether or not this gentleman is credible, he worked in the government at a very high level, and he's stating things that aren't necessarily revelational, that the public didn't really know. He just further confirms what has been in the public sphere for a long time concerning government's unscrupulous acts of violence, extrajudicial killings, corruption, our president reducing the presidency to, a soap opera. You never cease to stop hearing news concerning the good things about Liberia. It's about the president, corruption, manipulation, the lack of salaries for our civil servants while he's in England, and just so many things happening. And I don't think this is the Liberia we want. This is not the future we want for Liberia, especially our children who are unborn. Ashford, think about it. Many of us who grew up in Liberia before the war, we are privileged to have had a great foundation in education. But what is happening now to our current brothers and sisters, the young children after us? If churches aren't helping to make a change or individuals aren't making a change, we don't see our government making those strides in education to improve the well-being of our children. Mothers happen to decide how many children to send to school. Fathers happen to decide how many children they can send to school based on the fact that they don't have money. You've harmonized the people's salary to the point where it's no longer a livable wage, not to mention the fact that you're owing them for 3 to 4 months. Liberia is quite frankly in the dire straits. And our president needs to wake up. His administration needs to understand this kind of insensitivity to the plight of our people is not something that is worth hearing. I feel very embarrassed to constantly wake up and there's a news about what the government isn't doing or some fumbling that they have done that we have to spend time talking about. When will I talk about my country and what it is doing good for the people, for the generation born? Thank you.
And Dr. Fisk, we've got to be very careful how we introduce people to the media. Some people crave attention. They crave. They crave to be known. The popularity contest. Fisk, you being in the media for over decades, 2 or 3 decades. Like myself, when we were in the media, there was no internet, there was no social media. Every corner you turn, people where you have Liberians in the entire world, the name Jane Fisk, the name ASHFORD GARLEY that I mentioned, but we don't come to brag about those things. Kids get up now because there's this social media now, and they want to be known so bad, they want to be popular, and they just get up and do some things, as far as instead of becoming a reputable radio institution, you've now become a propaganda machine, and this is just not healthy. And because of the gullibility and the illiteracy rate in our country, people with bad reputation, people with alleged criminal record are still trying to speak on behalf of a country, and they're still trying to preach that narrative of good governance. Dr. Fisk.
Well, the thing is, you have to consider that it's not just about, the shortcomings of social media. You also have to add in that mix the level of poverty in the country. Okay. So now everyone is seeking favor, right? So like Ms. Roberts talked about earlier, quid pro quo. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. So then someone go and sets up a media outlet, not understanding the ethical principles that guide how you are supposed to practice as a media practitioner. And then what happens next is that you start to interact with politicians who have no scruples whatsoever, right? They are mismanaging the country. They are continuing this mismanagement that has been ongoing for some time, even though there's supposed to be an election to change those things. Now, what you have is that because people are having unfettered access to the wealth of the country, and the institutions are not working to be able to put some check and balance on how the wealth is dispensed, then of course people take a portion of that money and give it to other people who don't understand the ethics of what they are doing, and then these guys just go out and just do whatsoever they want. That is what is happening. But when you put this thing in a larger context, then you begin to understand that the public is not completely innocent. Okay, I say this to say, you just talk about, in recent time, the LBGT community from abroad have been trying to get a number of African countries to embrace gay rights and the rest of it. And look at the kind of public outcry you get from African countries and the leaders as well. You have unanimity within a number of African countries that these things should not prevail across Africa. Okay? There's political willingness to challenge these things. Where is the political willingness to challenge corruption? What is the political willingness to challenge theft? What is the political willingness to challenge people being killed needlessly? What is the political challenge to question the fact that you are running a country and you can't create jobs for your people? Okay, everybody can't go in a government building to work, but the government can open factories and then people can go in those factories. People don't, like I continue to say, you don't need to go to school to work in the factory because the factory just has an assembly line. You stand on the assembly line. If it's rest, the rest get in the bag. You sew the bag and pack the bag, and somebody else drive the truck to a depot, and then the rest gets sold. Then you don't have to take the rest from China. They're not rocket science. Okay, you go Ghana, young entrepreneurs, Ghanaians, young guys, Nigeria, people are flying to China, going to the expo, and bringing machines into their country because they want to be rich. Okay, but our own people, what they have stuck to, is that we will go after the crumbs that the nation doesn't even have in the first place, and continue to suffocate the rest of the country. And in the midst of the suffocation, then it becomes the survival of the fittest, and that is what you are seeing now. Okay, so to a large extent, the public is implicated in this thing as well. A lot of people think that electing George Weah to power is some kind of personal achievement for them. They're not looking at it in the broader context of an entire nation. Okay, well, maybe I'm connected to George Weah because maybe I friended with Finn Nabondo or something funny like that. So, well, this person is able to dash me also two, $300 or $500. But is that working in the interest of the country? It is not. So, while we are talking about what we want to understand, it is, if we try to understand this thing simply in terms of social media and the ills that are out there, then of course we miss the bigger picture. Okay, the bigger picture of the political underpinnings that keep enforcing these things, and then of course the lack of ethics. Okay, and ethics has nothing to do with social media. It has to do with some level of training. A number of people don't have that. That's why in places like Rwanda, they've tried to set up standard. If you want to open your church, you must have certain kind of standard. You want to do some other things, you must have the requisite credential to be able to do them. You see, so I will stop at there.
Okay, Mrs. Roberts.
Yes, yes, Mr. Garley. It's they say that doing the right thing, you don't have, no one needs to even give you guidance. To do the right thing, you almost should always do it without anyone looking. So we're all, we all get caught every now and then in that. But to have officials that need to be policed all the time, it's unfortunate. Like, the lack of opportunities for our people give them this have them in this conundrum where they don't know where to turn. They go to the same people. It's like, the child and the mother analogy. You just spank them for something they did, but who do they come to for comfort? They come to the same person who spanked them, because where else do they go? You know, that's where our people are. I just spoke to someone who just came, and we're talking about the elections and things that are happening. And some of them make the excuse that, oh, these people want to run for office. They should have been here ever since 5 years ago. Who comes to start running a campaign when someone just starts? So the mindset of some of these people it's a lot to do with the issues that we're plagued with. And because you hear the same people you're speaking for call on social media or different outlets to lash out at the people that are speaking on their behalf. So the mindset of our people is enslaved. They're just being, given whatever they can, and they don't understand that they can do better when they do the voting. When they choose the right leaders, when they choose the right people. Because again, if I live in a city and I don't see you ever until election, and I don't see improvement and say, oh, this is the mayor, even though some people may be in a different mind, different type of work where they don't come and see the people that serve them. But when you see what's happening around, oh, we got another pump here, since our environment has been reduced to just pumps rather than you know, running water in your home or in good living conditions so you can have running water. Let's say that's all they can get. So I see a pump here, I see a pump there. In like a block from my house rather than a whole mile or 2 miles away. And I don't see any improvement, but somebody comes back and want me to give them my vote, I won't. So this is what these people have to do. Forget president. Just start right there with your community leaders. Start with your in fact, I'm sorry, Pastor Jackson. Start with the church. What are they giving you back? We come here, yes, we hear the word of God, but what else are you giving to us to help us? Teach us, show us what we need to know. Civic education can be done in the churches. So there's so much for everybody to do, and we can't just blame the president. But I just want to emphasize that we have choices.
Well, we allowed Pastor Ado to come in, and following that, then we'll give our closing statement. I want to apologize to the audience that our guest, for some reason, didn't show up tonight. It's after 9 p.m. The electricity situation in Liberia. I spoke with him earlier. Excuse my voice. Spoke with him earlier, and he promised that he was going to come, but it's after 9 p.m. that we can't keep waiting all night. So I will allow Pastor Ado to come in, and then we can give our closing statement and call this a night. Pastor Ado.
Okay.
Ashford, we are actually in an age where social media reporting is taking over. And what characterizes this reality is sensationalism. Sensationalism. So the over exaggeration of information beyond the facts. And hence people are interested in what sensationalizes or pick the interest. And this has been done to improve viewership. The more breaking news you have and the more exciting gossip, void of facts or information, and overspinning it for a greater viewership has compromised people's ability to spend time peeling the facts from the truth. I mean, the falsehood from the truth. And
The fact from
Liberians
the
just ought to
fiction.
be very careful in this process because a lot of things would happen. One of the things as we come to a close, Ashford, is to encourage Liberians to be very careful in what they are consuming. They want to be very careful about that because come October 10th, that decision concerning changing Liberia's future is in their hands. And we in the media space or on the social media platform certainly have a responsibility to make sure that what we are communicating to our audience can be factual, what we are debating can be in a way responsible that doesn't incite for violence or otherwise. So I like to take this time to make a personal appeal to the president of Liberia. There are just so many damaging issues concerning this government. It is just shrouded in so much gossips and
Mhm.
so much evidence that just tarnishes the government's image nationally and internationally. Hence, I like to make this public call to encourage President George Weah to bow out of these elections
Mhm.
and save Liberia. This will be a greater good for the country because where we are now, it's just not working and will help Liberia very much if he steps down gracefully. Thank you.
And as we come to our closing statement, we've got to be very careful. Uh, as you speak to people out there, somebody calls your phone and just say, "Ask for ain't that true?" They're waiting for you to say yes. I will just cost one big cost. Then we'll go from there. Because I mean, you might say when you talk for 2, 3 weeks, you can say ask for ain't that true, waiting for you to say yes. Then they're not posting behind it to carry it the wrong way. Election time, it be very careful. People are recording people secretly. So and me myself, if what I say behind you, I make sure I can say it in front of you. And that's why I'm not even a fan of breaking news because sometimes it can mislead you, it can mislead your audience. Dr. Fisk.
Yeah. It- all I have to say tonight is this: you can't dress the devil. The devil can also the devil start dancing and start putting dusting the people faces and the cheering fool and all that kind of stuff. Then you come by and say, "Oh my poor, you're sorry. I never knew the devil was going to do that. Can't do that." Okay. So it's good that for whatever reason, Mr. Solo was not able to come on this program. He did not because you it was going to be a daunting task. Okay, to defend
Dr. Fierce
to
is scaring
defend
me away.
yeah, really to defend the indefensible. Okay. Um, what did people see other than soccer that made them to think that um, the Liberia were being on the right trajectory? Okay. The most important thing after a post-war nation is the creation of jobs so that people live with dignity. Okay. When you talk about jobs, people get afraid. When you talk about jobs, you talk about massive employment. That's what Liberia needs: massive employment. All that thing about let's have reconciliation. You know how many years people been having reconciliation? Every time they've been doing that reconciliation talk since Judy Bryant. From Judy Bryant up until now, you know how many years we're talking about? But things have not changed. What if people have been getting jobs since Judy Bryant time? Massive job employment all across Liberia. Factories. Every county get about at least 5 or 10 factories. You have seen a big difference because why? People who have used that money to build their own hand pump,
The
and
man,
then
I
you're
can't wait
not.
to factory Bennett tonight again.
What's that?
I said the man, I can't wait to factory Bennett again tonight. Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I'll come with the factory because that's the only way you can have massive job employment. Everything else doesn't work. Okay. And the thing is, you can't say, "Oh, we're outsourcing to the private sector." When you talk about private sector in Liberia, who are you talking about? You're talking about Lebanese and Indians. How long will Liberians continue to queue for cooked food from GT? Is it GT, the Indian guy?
Yeah,
He cooked
Jetty.
food.
Yeah.
Yeah, GT, he cooked food, and Liberian people queue in line. This is a country that sees 200 inches, almost 200 inches of rainfall every year. This is a country that has fertile soil. This is a country that has very good climate for agriculture. But yet and still, the people are queuing for food, and they think it's some kind of philanthropy When somebody cook rice in a big pot and make people who, it's not like they are crippled. They're not crippled. They're not stupid people. Like somebody like the CDC person the other day was trying to do. No, these people are intelligent people. All these people want is an opportunity to be able to make money, to be able to determine their own life. They don't need people building houses for them. They don't need people dividing back or rest for them every month. They don't need all that crap. Treat them. Don't 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 interact with your own people with with an apartheid mindset. In other words, a mindset that makes you to think you are better than them, so they don't deserve anything. These are the same reasons why 13 government officials were executed in 1980. The biggest noise people made at that time is that, oh, the Congo people were discriminating against us. But it's the worst discrimination for the last 40 years that's going on against the Liberian people by those who continue to control the small resources of the country. So Liberian people need to open their eye and understand that this thing has nothing to do with tribe. It has everything to do with greed. Okay? The greed and the lack of our ability to make sure that our institutions work. Because if the institutions in Liberia work, you can take machine and put it in the mansion, the country will still function. Because why? If that machine is not working according to the statutory responsibilities that it has at its disposal, then the machine can be dispensed and something else brought in. Okay? So that is how I end this evening. Liberia can do better, but Liberia will only do better if Liberians do better. And the best way Liberians can do better is to make sure that they vote wisely and continue after the election by putting pressure on government to make institutions functional. Because if the institutions are functional, even if we argue, say people have not been doing well for the country, but because institutions are functional, they will do well. Any of these political aspirants, if you put them in a Western society, you will see that these people will produce. The difference between Western society and most African societies is the fact that these societies respect the institutions and they want to make sure that those institutions thrive, because this is where you have to check and balance. Those things don't exist in most African countries, especially not in Liberia. That's why people continue to take the country and its citizens for granted. Like Mr. Weah is in England right now, watching a coronation while things continue to go on in the country. And that's completely sad. That's our end tonight.
Thank you. Your closing statement, Mrs. Roberts. Is he must stop sleeping?
Yeah. Thank you so much, my fellow panelists, to our host, and of course to you out there in Radio Land and in Facebook Land for being here with us tonight. I just want to point out one correction to Dr. Fisk. I know, we want to, I can do that in the back, but I just wanted to, because I support someone who is handicapped. In fact, handicap is not even the word, so I'll be in contempt as well. It's called disabled. We can't use crippled nor handicap any longer, so we have to say they're disabled people. But in closing, I do want to agree that our people have to be the ones that bring the pressure on. You start with their community leaders. I hear, when something happens in towns in Liberia district, they call the chairman, then they call, pastors, and then everybody comes and gathers. So start there. Start somewhere so that you get familiar on how to approach and demand your rights. You do have rights to ask questions. Why is that this not done? Why is my community so dirty? And of course, you have to help as well to maintain it, but you have the right to ask people questions on what you want. Again, register to vote, report anything that is not usual to the powers that be so that you have the right to vote properly on October 10th. Do vote your conscience. Thank you.
Pastor Ade, your closing statement, and then you'll close us out in the
Yes, Ashford, I would certainly like to call on all of our political leaders to start being very, very forceful on this reality. The voting machines are inoperable in Lofa County and Nima County. It's been reported that this is orchestrated purposefully to deny people's right to participate in these elections. This government is not joking. It is intended to rig these elections if we aren't careful or not start acting now to prevent that. So there are news that parts of Lofa, the machines aren't working, they're breaking down, as well as in parts of Nima. And this doesn't seem strange to me. We honestly understand that President Boyka in waiting comes from Nima, and the Nimbayans are people who are predominantly supporting Jeremiah Kung and
I mean,
will
in real life,
potentially
these
vote
things
for
do.
him.
It's not in real life.
So I am calling
Pastor
on the
Ade,
political leaders.
Pastor Ade,
Go ahead.
but in
Yes,
real
sir.
life, these things do happen. It could be just a malfunction of the machine. I mean, it happens everywhere in the world. So I don't want to. We shouldn't just assume that.
Well, I mean, the malfunctioning shouldn't be happening in your opponent's area predominantly. So we have to be very careful. There are folks who are saying that these elections may be decided by the Supreme Court. NEC is already compromised, and to deny the people the ability to participate in their future through voting is becoming very, very concerning. And the leaders need to start speaking and speaking louder than ever before. On this note, Liberians, in spite of all of these discrepancies, I'd like to encourage you to do your best to stand up, spend that time, register, and vote. Your future is at stake. Once again, this is about your patriotism over individualism and your sense of nationalism over tribalism for the greater good of the country. Liberia deserves better. Thank you.
And you can pray for us now to go home.
The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and give you peace. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days of your lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
That's all the time we have to be with you tonight. God willing, we'll be back on Monday, same time, same place. Until then, folks, I'm telling you, tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. In the words of Marco Bobby Bull, when you see crawfish coming from underneath the water and see the crocodile, he's sweating, don't say that lie. When white men know your friend black man, don't see okra and swallow bone, because you can't hide your nakedness from beefing bucket. Basi yomplo, just say to pagege. Se bon plo da na je ko me o tiraji. We di aku ye gwe play. Se ko we e pelea. Groba we konyo si kro. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. Africa's media do extraordinaire. Ashford the Giant. The Now You Know Me Garlery. The Golden Voice of Radio. Have a good night.